Happy Monday, everybody. I just came across this specific article and it ticked me off to no end. PS5 is making me hate PC gaming. And this article pissed me off for a couple reasons, but I actually kinda agree with it, but also vehemently disagree with it. And I think some good conclusions are drawn, but other conclusions are misguided, misplaced, and don't actually resonate with what the true reality is and kind of just misses the point. The PS5 is making me hate PC gaming. I just want to enjoy new games, is the opinion. Let's find out why you can't just enjoy games. So the first part of the article starts with the author just kind of introducing that there's new launches happening everywhere. PS5, Series X, RTX 30, and Big Navi, all of it's happening. So the question and the decision they had to make was PS5 now or save up for a 3090 and CPU upgrade. With the statement being, it seemed like an obvious choice at the time. I'm now kicking myself. Is that because you chose the RTX 3090 and CPU upgrade, or is it because you chose the PS5? I think because of the title of the article, they chose the PC and that they want the PS5. I'm not 100% sure here. Anyways, continuing on, saying that when the next generation of ray tracing graphics cards was announced, we only had some demo footage and some pretty baseless graphs to show what performance to expect. Since these GPUs have hit the market, we've seen games such as Cyberpunk 2077, Watch Dogs Legion, and the Medium release, giving us the opportunity to test this groundbreaking computer hardware for ourselves. And each time, be it down to overly demanding software or lack of optimization for PC, I'm left disappointed. What? Before the games were even released, we were seeing fairly alarming system requirements to play the latest AAA titles. It was reported that the Medium couldn't run at a consistent 60 FPS on a PC equipped with an i9-9900K and an RTX 3080, even on standard 1080p quality and ray tracing switched off, and the optimization issues faced by the Medium are hardly unique. I'm left baffled by this part of like, we only got baseless graphs of what performance to expect, but the cards have been out from September. The games, yes, are more recent, but we've had plenty of indication to show what real-time ray tracing can do. It's not like we were waiting on Cyberpunk to show us the glories of real-time ray tracing. NVIDIA's been hammering that home since 2018. We have Minecraft RTX, which came out of beta and looks phenomenal. Quake 2 RTX has been happening, and we've had a slow but steady stream of real-time ray tracing titles that came out. And to point out specific games that have had optimization issues as an underwhelming version of what the graphics cards are just seems a little misguided, but let's continue on with the article. Sure, I could go back and play some great older games, but brand new releases that were supposed to show off the raw power of the latest hardware have fallen a tad flat for me. They've hardly knocked it out of the park on consoles either, but the Sony exclusive titles don't suffer from the issues faced by multi-platform games. I guess. Sure, yeah, that's right, but the multi-platform games suck more on PlayStation than they do on PC. Cyberpunk's awful on PlayStation. I don't know if you've heard. They can't, it doesn't play. Even the PlayStation 4 is like, they don't load in the textures, and even the PS5, which can play the game okay, crashed way more often than I ever experienced it on the PC. And while we're talking about the Medium being optimized, that's because it was an Xbox exclusive thing. I don't understand the need to hit at an entire gaming platform for the failures of developers. It doesn't. Cyberpunk worked amazing on PC. Like, if you had an RTX 3080, you're more than likely enjoying really beautiful games. Yes, it had like bugs, but it actually looked really good. You didn't have as many texture loading in issues. You had like T-pose issues, a completely different subset of things. Like the Cyberpunk kind of lived up to like the gorgeosity if you had a 3090, but not if you had everything else. And that, like, I think is against the argument that's being made here. I found myself over the last few weeks looking over the unsatisfactory performance and reviews, questioning what the point is of having the most powerful graphics card and CPUs on the market if the games struggle to run. This hardware should last gamers several years without requiring an upgrade, and yet they already feel outdated when trying to play games on release. Have the game developers stretched too far, or are our expectations too high? It's honestly hard to say at this point. No, it's not! It's not! This is not the hardest thing to answer. Game developers screwed this up. Like, the RTX 3080, the RTX 3090 are way beyond the hardware that you're going to find in a PS5 or a Series X. It's just, there's no question. Like, that's how the CUDA cores, that's how the Tensor cores, that's how all of it works. It's faster, all right? What's happening is we're not getting development for those specific things. If you look at games that have been developed exclusively to run on this hardware, such as Minecraft RTX, that's where you find it. What we're seeing is that these game developers are stretched too far. They're trying to do too much. They have to go for an underpowered hardware like the PlayStation 5 and the Series X, or even worse, develop for the Series S or the PS4, and then also have to scale it up. And what happens then? You have to resort to the lowest common denominator, which is the garbage consoles and the garbage PCs. That's the simplicity here, all right? They have to develop for the like bare minimum that everybody's going to be playing on, and then add options in from there. But when you design it for the peak, like your 3090 is gonna last years. It's gonna do that. There's no question. Game developers suck right now. That's what's happening. Continuing on, PC gaming sometimes feels like a constant uphill battle to evolve and accommodate the very latest in computing technology, combining a love for tech tinkering with a gaming hobby for many. You need to put consistent effort, money, or both into being a PC gamer, because a large reason people choose a computer over a console is the ability to experience games in the highest achievable quality. PC gamers joke about having a superiority complex for this very reason. And that's the bullcrap. That's the nonsense. You don't need that. That's not true. Okay, there is nothing that says in order to be a PC gamer, you have to upgrade your system all of the time. There's nothing about being a PC gamer that says you have to love tinkering. It is just as reasonable to go buy a pre-built from Best Buy and say this is going to last me for 5 years as it is to go buy a PS5 and say this is going to last me for 5 years. Same experience. You're still getting software updates from the developer along the way, Microsoft pushing it out for Windows 10, Sony pushing out firmware updates for the PS5. Sure, there might be driver updates that you have to do, but games update all of the time. Controller firmware updates are there. It's a very similar experience as long as you have the mentality to have a similar experience. If you're going into the PC community and saying, I need to upgrade all along the way, you're feeding into something in yourself that's not intrinsic to the actual medium. You're putting that in there. But the point of PC gamers joke about having a superiority complex for this very reason, I think is also true. Like, this is the part of the article that I absolutely agree with. PC gaming is kind of difficult if you're looking at the wrong people. If you're following along with the herd mentality that says, damn it, it better be a 3080 with ray tracing or nothing. It's not worth playing video games on your GT 710 because that's outdated. You're just on the wrong part of the community. It's the same thing as like getting into a speed running community while you want to casually enjoy the game. You're not on the same level, you're not experiencing the same things, and you're doing it for completely different reasons. Just wanting to build a PC to play video games, honestly, that's part of the community. That's the beautiful thing about the PC gaming community. It can span all of this. With PlayStation and with Xbox, you kind of are locked to that hardware. It's either you have the PS5 or you don't. When it comes to PC gaming, it's a huge range. There are people who are playing on office laptops that they picked up from their parents. There are people who are playing on computers that are 12 years old because they wanted to upgrade last year, but they couldn't, and so they still have to endure and just play on it. And that's okay. That's the beauty. That's the lovely thing about the PC gaming community. Now, it can get so insular and it can get so frustrating to only see the people who are hounding you to constantly upgrade, but I think you're following the wrong people at that point. People like OzTalks Hardware or Zach's Tech Turf who actually go out and try to build PCs on a budget that you can enjoy no matter what. It's a real thing. Now, the next line in this article is probably the most laughable. And yet PS5 owners can currently experience 4K quality, better game optimizations in some titles, and haptic feedback in the DualSense controller for significantly less than a comparable gaming computer would cost to buy or build. Okay, PS5 owners are not experiencing 4K quality. They're thinking they're getting 4K quality, but here's the thing. Game developers, like with the fact that Demon's Souls gives you 60 FPS, that's not at 4K. You think it is because they're really good at hiding it through tricks and sub-resolution and all of that, but it's 1440p. Spider-Man, when you have ray tracing plus 60 FPS, you're not running that at 4K. You want to run 4K, you're getting 30 FPS. You want to run 4K on a 3090, you're getting 60 FPS. There is a vast difference there. You can get 4K. It's not the same. I'd rather play it. I'm enjoying Demon's Souls at 1440p. I'm enjoying Spider-Man ray traced at 1080p. That's totally fine. I'm personally enjoying it. I'm playing on an 8K TV at 1080p resolution, and it's totally fine for me. but it's not the same. But the argument that you can build it for far less is actually true. I made that point in my PlayStation 5 review. It's absolutely right. But the article continues on and says, I can sense my own inflated ego for building and playing PCs withering away when I try to work out how much effort and cash I'm putting into my gaming hobby versus how much fun I'm actually getting out of it with these new games. One of the biggest reasons I and many others will also be buying a PS5 is because of the Sony exclusive titles. These games consistently rank in best of lists, and despite also playing games that are restricted to PCs such as World of Warcraft or Dota 2, I prefer the PlayStation only titles. Sure, they sometimes eventually make their way to Steam or Epic, but that's years down the line and after some pretty heavy optimization. Again, that's two different things. That's two different freaking things. All right? You're saying I love playing really good single player experiences and I really love playing MMOs. Yeah. I mean, the best MMOs are on PC, and yes, the greatest single-player games that have come out in the last 3 to 5 years are on the PlayStation. That doesn't negate the PC's value. Yes, you can't play those games, but you also can't play Switch games on a PlayStation. Where's Fire Emblem Three Houses in all of this conversation? Where's Super Mario Odyssey? Where's freaking Breath of the Wild? You're not playing any of those on a PlayStation, so it's like saying the Nintendo Switch makes me hate PC gaming. No, your desire for single-player experiences makes you prefer PlayStation. That's it! When the PS5 showcase announced Horizon Forbidden West, Demon's Souls, and God of War Ragnarok, I excitingly noted them as titles to look forward to playing when I could eventually buy the console myself. Now that the first few months of the NVIDIA Ampere and AMD Big Navi hardware have passed, I'm left feeling disappointed and envious of my console playing peers. For what? There's one game! Demon's Souls! There's one! They can't play Cyberpunk, I can play Cyberpunk, I have one game too! We win! It's equal! What are you jealous of? Those games aren't out yet! Gaming on a console is effortless. You don't need to worry about overclocking or changing out your cooling system or CPU. You don't need to do that on a PC either! Who's telling you need to do these things? Your controller comes in a box, so there's no need to research the best mice options or key switches to improve your performance. The entire system is provided for you for an arguably affordable price and only needs to be updated every 5 to 7 years. Comparatively, PC gaming feels almost exhausting and financially depressing. Because you're doing it wrong! You're doing it wrong! You don't need better key switches. You don't need better mice to play better video games. Get a damn controller, hook it up to your damn computer, and play the video game. You don't need any of this. Buy a freaking pre-built. Go to Best Buy, ask them for a pre-built gaming PC. They'll give it to you. You turn it on. You log in with Windows and set it all up, just like you do on the initial loading screen of the PlayStation. And then you're good to go. It'll come with a keyboard and a mouse. You'll be good to go. You don't need better than that. You just think you do, and that's the issue. It's not anything at all to do with console versus PC. This is just you thinking you have to do something different. This is in no way saying that I'll be switching out my gaming PC in favor of a PS5, and I'm sure this time next year I'll be back to popping jokes at the expense of my console playing friends, but I'm firmly stepping down from my high horse for the time being. Until games are better optimized for PC, developers manage their hardware expectations. Every game I'm looking forward to in 2021 is currently a PS5 exclusive. Now I just need to somehow get my hands on one. This article pisses me off so much. Simply because of the title. The PS5 is making me hate PC gaming. No! Your expectations of PC gaming make you hate PC gaming. You think PC gaming is more than it actually is, and that's the entire problem, okay? Like, the PS5 is great. There's games to play and love and enjoy. I'm looking forward to Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm looking forward to God of War Ragnarok. I loved playing Demon's Souls. It has been a great experience. But I also understand that building and playing on a PC doesn't need to be stupid. It doesn't need to be constant upgrades. Who's telling you need to swap out your CPU cooler? If your CPU temps are fine, you're going to be okay. What's the difference between an aged computer that's overheating and an aged PlayStation that's overheating? It's easier to access the cooler on the PC and just put on new thermal paste. But guess what? Your PlayStation needs new thermal paste too. You're just not going to do it. The PlayStation 5 suffers from this tremendously. How many people have liquid metal lying around? You can't just pop down to the local Best Buy and pick up a tube of liquid metal. You're going to have to order that on the internet, and then you're going to have to make sure you don't get it over the PCB and actually break everything. But if you're just running a normal air cooler, like a $30 Cooler Master Hyper 212, you just need regular thermal paste that you can get from pretty much anywhere. The biggest issue here is not that the PS5 is making you hate PC gaming. The biggest issue here is that you hate PC gaming because you think PC gaming is different than it actually is. Playing on a gaming PC doesn't need to be more than what playing on a console is. If you buy a computer simply to just play games, you can keep it that way. There's great versatility in a computer where you can also do work. You have the ability to upgrade certain components, but you don't have to. I know dozens of people who gladly play video games and don't consider that they need to upgrade at all, ever. It's only when there is some major generational improvement that they say, hey, yeah, maybe I should consider getting the new thing. Kind of like when Sony releases a PS5. People on the PS4 say, oh yeah, maybe I should get the new thing. But people who are on a card from 2013 are still using those cards. Like, Intel's processors from 2013 are actually still perfectly viable. Your RTX 3090 that you purchase right now is going to be perfectly viable in 7 years. It's going to play the games that are coming out in 7 years. Maybe not at the highest resolution, maybe not at the best frame rate, but it'll do it. And that's exactly what's happening on the console side of things as well. Cyberpunk sucks anus on the PS4. Part of that is because CD Projekt Red did some bad development, but it's also getting pretty long in the tooth. A lot of the games that were developed for the PlayStation 4 in recent history had to run at much lower resolution. But we don't notice that because we're not talking about it as much. When you go into the Demon's Souls menu, when you choose the two different options of whether you want cinematic or performance, it's not broadcasting to you that one is going to be 1440p 60 and one's going to be 4K 30. They're not saying those things. They're just giving them to you, and you have to choose which one you prefer. Now, that's not exactly happening in PC games because it's a bit more granular, but plenty of games just allow you to choose whatever settings are best optimized for the hardware that's at hand. It does a little scan, and boom, you're off to the races. It really can be incredibly simple, and that's the beauty. That's the enjoyment of PC gaming. And it's fine if you prefer PlayStation 5 games that are coming out. I am the most excited for games that are coming out on the PS5 versus games that are coming out on PC. I 100% agree with that. That doesn't make me hate PC gaming. What makes me hate PC gaming is the idea that PC gaming has to be a constant battle of trying to get the best thing. What key switches do you want? You want Cherry MX Brown, but then you have the keyboard community being like, oh, Cherry MX Brown, oh, little cute boy hasn't had the experience of real mechanical gaming keyboards. Forget the people who say those things, because that's not the experience you're trying to have. If you just want to play games, just sit down and play games and enjoy the freaking games. It's not that hard. It's not that revolutionary. PS5 is not making you hate PC gaming. Your expectation of PC gaming is making you hate PC gaming, and that's perfectly fine. There's tons of communities that are dedicated to shoving the latest and greatest down your throat. And that sucks. It's frustrating, especially when you don't have the money, especially when you can't upgrade, especially when people make you feel bad for not having the latest and greatest. That's crap. That's garbage. That's not how it should be. But you can avoid it. You just don't participate in that community. You don't participate in a speedrunning community when you're casually trying to enjoy a video game. They're two separate worlds, and you're conflating them, and that's kind of the difficulty here. Anyways, those are my thoughts. PS5 is making me hate PC gaming. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. Why can't we all just love everything? Cheers.